I'd just like to thank you all for inviting me to participate in a Zoom meeting. And this is my first Zoom meeting being a host, and I'm really excited to be able to share with you my journey to where I've gotten to today and explain to you a little bit what I do, how I get to the end result, and my thought processes along the way. In all likelihood, I'm not going to finish this painting today, but I want to show you the steps that I take to get to where I'm at, because there's more to it, and it's exciting for me, and I'm really happy to share that with you. I started as a watercolorist originally, and started a number of years ago, and moved to Florida about 5 years ago. I stayed there for 2 years. And we were empty nesters by then, and I took up watercoloring, did a lot of plein air. But I started doing, before this so vibrant, that with the watercolors, I noticed that the watercolor would saturate the paper and lose its luminosity. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to keep that. So I went more to pastels, and I just had a couple of just hard stick pastels. I started coloring the watercolor in, and the color really popped for me. And so more and more, the watercolor just became an underpainting for me. And I started to take some classes down in Florida by a lady by the name of Barbara Archer. And she really is the one who got me involved at a much more professional sort of level, if you will. And so for me, using different tools and being able to use my imagination is paramount. And I always think to myself, the very most important tool that I can bring into my studio is my imagination. And how do you work with that? There's so many beautiful people and beautiful styles of pastels that I don't know if I could ever compete with that. But I know that in my imagination, I'm an individual. It's me, and I know that I can satisfy my own imagination and put things on a two-dimensional format. And if it excites me, that's really ultimately probably my harshest critic, you know. And so the journey and what I'm trying to accomplish with this style is, what excites me is that I can use pure colors. You know, pastels are such a great way to use a pure pigment, if you will. I also like the idea of being able to make it as abstract as I want to make it. I'm not going to get a realistic photographic style with this format, with this paper. It's very, very hard. But I like that, because what I'm trying to do with these pieces is, when someone walks into a gallery or into a studio in a setting and they're 15 or 20 feet away, it may look very realistic. It looks like a landscape to them. You know, you see the colors, you see the trees, you see the horizon, and it makes sense. But there's something that I hope I can draw that person closer. And the closer that you get to them, the more abstract it becomes, because it's really it's more like a pointless style at that viewing, really, because you start to see pure colors, and as you pull away, they blend together. The closer you get, the more solid they become, more almost like a cell, if you will. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you the process, how I prepare the paper, how I prepare the panel, and I've put together a short movie. If you have questions, you want me to pause it and explain to you a little bit, I will. I'll explain also while the movie's playing what I'm thinking, what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to accomplish today is, because I know we're not going to finish, I'm going to try and focus on the highlights. Think about what goes through my mind as I develop this piece. What do I need to do? What do I need to accentuate? What are the steps that I'm going to go through? So if it makes sense to you, that's fine. You know, the great thing about art is that you take bits and pieces from what you see. You know, it may be something that you go, oh, I know I can do that. I've seen that done before. You know, there's a great book by Don Emerson that I read early on in my pastel life, and it just really drove home the fact that you really can do so much with pastels, and it really got me thinking about different avenues, different ways to use them. So let me go ahead and show the movie. Yep.
Yeah, Mark, I'm not sure I can. You can share a screen. Can you double check it?
Oh,
Yeah, I think I may have to make you host and you have to start.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and then you'll,
When we're done, we can switch.
yeah, this is kind of,
Sure.
we got caught up with other options.
Yep.
And, okay.
That's the beauty of Zoom.
And then I'm gonna make, okay, change host, and then, or do you have your record option out on there?
Yep.
Yeah, you have to start up now. Okay,
It's recording.
okay. And then, yeah, okay, that's fine. I think we're fine now.
Okay, so let me see if I can jump into the movie here. So are you all seeing this? Are you seeing?
Nothing yet, no.
Uh-oh. Well, let me pause it here. Go back.
Oh, hold on.
Yep.
Do you have share screen on yours?
Here we go. Now you see it.
Oh, now it, okay.
Okay. So let me just minimize this here. Shoot. You probably see my desktop now. Now do you see? Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So these are just some examples of some pieces I've done, and some of the programs I've got into them. And these are all using the same paper. It's a high Gossamer paper. It's interesting. I initially started with pastels and thinking I could make a sort of a cutout, if you will, a stencil. And I bought this paper thinking that would be a great way to create a stencil, because it has all these little craters. Well, they were terrible for making any stencils or mark making purposes. So I really just threw the first one away. And then this is actually the start of the process. This is wet. And then this is the start of applying pastels. And so this is the small, like a 9x12. And this is, you can see the finished product here. And it was just like very small. But again, I started with just a few ideas of what I want to do, turn into a landscape. And this is interesting, just using pastel pigments again. And these is really just the underpainting. It gives me a direction to go. It's a like a lot of underpaintings. I think it gets you laying something down on a piece of paper. It gets the idea going, gets your thought process working. And so, like anything else, you do landscapes. But I like this to show you. There's so many little cells that you fill in. It's a very pointless style. And this is an example. I just pulled this paper apart to try and make bigger grids. Now here's just an idea of the materials, and I'll just pause this for a second. I will say this: when it comes to using your favorite pastels, I drug my pastel across this paper one time, and it just destroyed the pastel. And that's another. It's sort of an indicator and a way of reminding you: don't drag the pastel across this paper, because it will eat up your pastel very, very fast. And you'll see why these all come into play. This is my idea, what I'm looking at. This is my backyard, and I just kind of like the idea. I like the red against the green, and there's a little app that I have that'll pixelate the largest numbers of the largest color values and colors. And that's sort of what I've used here as a starting off point and the idea of, okay, these are the colors that the camera sees. And it just sort of gets my mind thinking. And then this is the same, except a few days later when this sprouted up. And so this is what I'm going to aim for here. And this is the composition that we'll be looking at today. So this is another, just the photograph of the same picture, but I do like to see the values. I want to see what is highlighted. A lot of times it's hard to sometimes get that with a color picture. And so I do like to look at the black and white. And what I'm attracted to here is I like the dark flowers and the white background. And I really enjoy putting the darkest values together side by side. I want to draw interest. I want to have one sort of, I've heard people say, I want one sort of Superman. I don't need 4 or 5. I want a point of interest. And I'm going to try it and make this the point of interest today. And so that's sort of the goal. And that's
you can unmute yourself.
So this is just showing you, this is
Hello?
Okay, can you hear me? I hope so. But this is what I use. It's Art Spectrum. It's a clear gesso, and it's got the grit in it. I started using a matte medium to glue this paper on first, but then you had to put another the gesso on there to get the grit to hold the pastel. And so I just bypassed the matte medium. I mean the gel, and went right to the clear gesso, and it worked just fine. It has a good binding agent in it. And this is the start. This is a 16 by 20 panel. And so I just wanted to show you, this panel is still wet from the gesso. And while it's still wet, I like to work in this case, I wanted to use pastels. So I just used the pastels. And I've used casein, I've used watercolors that work great. And what I found doesn't work very good is acrylic paint. The acrylic tends to bond with the matte, with the pumice and the gesso, and it's very difficult. It just sort of it doesn't work very good. So you end up putting an acrylic paint on there, and then you have to go back over the gesso. And I don't know. I didn't really care for it too much. It was an extra step that wasn't really necessary. And so this is probably the primary reason I wanted to make a video like this, because there's no way that I could do this live and then expect to put dry pastels on top of it. And again, it really is just an underpainting. I'm just trying to I'm looking at the picture of the flowers and just trying to say, okay, where's the highlight? And you can use any color, but I always think purple and green sort of they work well together. Compliments. Here I'm putting darker values in, trying to build a dark. I want to get a dark value, the dark underpainting going. Now the panel is dry, and so now I'm going in with it's just a pure dry pastel. And this is a little softer brush, but it's you could use a hake the same as anything else. You're really just pushing the pigment around. At this point, it's not wet, so you're just trying to disperse it as much as you can. So here I'm just trying to build up the greens up against the dark purple and let the grid show through somewhat and still give it that abstract look, the textured look. Some of these that I've done literally fill in every single one of those little cells, and it is so time consuming. But the end result, you get some really cool effects when you do that. And I've never done this flower scene before, so I don't have any. It's not like I used this 5 times before, and I know exactly where this is going to go and what's going to lay down where. And it's just all experiment and try new things and see where it goes. So now I need to build up some of the darker values, and this is what I'm doing with the purple again. And this is kind of, I wanted to try this purple because it's what do you call it, iridescent? And from it's a little bit shimmery. So what I'm trying to do here is get this pastel now to bleed down. And I just think that whenever I can manipulate the panel and the pastels to create a natural effect, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try and do something. I like the arbitrariness, if that's a word, of this. What it does, it lets me also see, okay, I can go in there and make something and not feel like, oh, geez, now I can't. You're timid sometimes, to go in and add this color or that color. Almost by doing this, you almost say, I almost say like, okay, this is it, and it's natural, and because this is the outdoor scene of nature, if you will, I like to manipulate the pastel and the board and the panel and the paper to give me something arbitrary, something random, and that's what this is. That's all that's all there is. So that's that. Okay. Okay, so we're back. Okay, so Tatiana, I'm going to go back and make you host again. And let me see if I can make you the host. Trying to make you host, Tatiana cannot for some reason. Oh wait, here you go. Tatiana. Here you go. Okay. Okay, now you are the host. So Tatiana, you're now the host, okay?
Okay, fine, because
Okay.
everybody was all muted. There were some questions.
Okay, yep. Yep.
Does, I guess Darlene's question is papers stay adhered or is it removed is answered, right, Darlene? Okay, let me,
Yeah.
I think people can ask to unmute. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, you answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. Evelyn, you can unmute.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. There was another question about what was the software program you're using to you said Pixelite to sample the colors. There's something called eyedropper, I think, in Photoshop.
You might be able to use that. This is just it's a little app that I have on my phone. I can take a look before the end of the program. My phone's in the other room. I can take a look at it and see.
Okay. And then I had a question. Were you using water or alcohol or something else to liquefy?
It's all water.
And do you work horizontally until you get to a certain stage and then you work as you are now on the easel?
Yep. And depending on what I'm doing, there's a step here that I'm going to use a stencil, and I would probably do that on the ground normally because it's much easier. But it's okay. I'll see how it works on here and see. But yeah, normally with that, I'll do the prep on the ground or any flat surface, you know, that anything you can lay that board on. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So here's the piece. I may as well show you these are the pastels I'll use. If you can see those, that's my palette today. I have the photograph here. And so the first thing is to say, okay, I'm looking at this again in the black and white. I like this horizontal that goes across here, but I want to bring that up a little bit because I want to use I want to use this side here as the focal point. I want that to be the flower. And so I know that I want this to be light. So I start with just coming in here, and I want to use this area here and build this area up out here. So we'll start to drop these colors in and just begin filling this space in here. And I know there's going to be holes in the tree. There are little holes here. And so you can also, once you put those in, you can use a little nub. And if you want to fill this in, you fill little squares in if you want to. Sometimes it'll get a little darker. You can use your finger if you want. It's a little more random. And so I'll begin just putting these in place here. And this is all one color. But I'll stick with just the lighter colored greens, because what I don't want is to have one field of the painting completely covered in one color. I want your eyes, I want my eyes to bounce around and realize, okay, this is not a solid mass. In nature, I don't think that there's a solid color, you know, especially in grass, you're going to see different colors. And I want there to be some variation here. So I'll pick some of these up. I might put sometimes I'll put a pink, yeah. It just really, I'm looking at lightness. I want to see light here. So I know that I want this to continue over. And I want this to be some of the very lightest over here up in this area. So maybe you come in here, and that's as much light maybe as the lightest light. So just keep filling these in. And I don't want this to get too big. So then you come over here and start putting in some lighter colors over here, if you will. So again, this area here is where I would use a stencil. And I just cut this out. Just it's not the same shape. And what I noticed in the photograph, okay, the flower is actually pointing this way. I don't want to take people's vision and move it out of the painting. I want to bring it back in. And so instead of having the flower go this way, I drew it out with a stencil so that it actually folds in a little bit. So it's going to go inside now. So what I did is put this together here. Kind of hard to see here. This is where I'm not really sure. This is very interesting to try this right now. But typically with a stencil, I would do this on the ground. And I just want this to come up. And what I want to really point out is that I want this large flower to cut across I want this to get up into the trees. I want it to pass through the dark here. I also want it to be this area here to be some of the darkest reds in the painting. And I'll do this here a little bit, and I'll try to just do one side. And if you could see the dust coming down as I do this, it's kind of neat in a way, because it's capturing, as it falls down, cascades, it falls on these little cells, on these little threads, and you use that to your advantage. And so with this stencil here, what this stencil does is, I learned this pretty quick, is that it'll allow you to create a straight line, if you will, or it'll create the outline that we want, that we maybe normally couldn't get, because if I try, like I said, if I try and drag that pastel across, you do it one time and it's just, your pastel's exploded. You wasted half a pastel. And no, I don't want to do that. So what I'm doing is just sort of dragging this across. And it comes way down here into this field here. And so I don't have to cover every inch of this with this color, because again, this is a dark red here. And so maybe I'll touch some of this up here. So I'll try and hit this here. I'll come in here and so really start really working it. And it just, for me, the exciting part is to see it start to develop. And now I'm going to introduce another red, a little lighter, because there's dark underneath. I'm trying to get that dark red in there first. And so we'll try and get this dark in here, real dark. And then we'll come in here with the red and start dropping these reds in. So you begin to see, okay, put a few reds in there. Okay. And then so then you can begin to see this take shape here. I hope you can. All right. So I also want to put these little red flowers in around here. They're very sort of arbitrary, just out here. So I'll try and put some in here. I cut this little stencil out here too. So there's flowers up here. There's one down here. There's one over here. And it's a little different color. This guy here, a little different color here. They're all kind of, yeah, there's all garden flowers, so it doesn't matter. They're growing. They're growing somewhere. I see them. Okay. So then there's there's one use of a stencil there. And so what I've done is really, and I don't know if you can see this here, but what I will do from time to time also is knock this down. Is there any questions yet? Tatiana, are there any? No?
No, not yet, but if people want to start asking, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
So
Uh-oh.
far?
I think Evelyn's having a hard time. She's muted.
Hold on. I think,
She's-
hold on.
And she's flapping her hands, she's muted. Hi, Evelyn, I can hear you.
Hold on.
I can see it. I can see it.
Oops. Hold on. I think you can, okay, Evelyn.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I had muted myself and then
Oh.
I couldn't unmute myself.
Yeah, okay.
So I missed the step with the stencil. I
Yep.
thought what you were gonna do was reverse it because I thought you were working on the back of something. How did the pigment get through that plastic?
He cut it out, right?
Yep, I sure did. It's a cutout. I
see.
just cut it out.
I see.
This is
Okay,
just
I missed that.
It's a piece of Mylar.
Okay,
And so
okay.
I
I
just,
thought it was solid. Okay, thanks.
yeah,
I think I think against that paint, against the painting,
Yeah.
and somehow the film probably picked up, the
Well-
camera didn't pick up the shininess all the way across.
so I'll show you another way to use that. And this is a good example of how you'll be able to say, oh, I didn't see this here. So this is a piece of paper, right? So I'm just cutting this here. Again, I want the arbitrary feeling. So I'm not gonna take the time really to, I don't want to figure out, oh, this looks weird, or there's something going on. It's just very arbitrary. I just want this to look sort of, and this is fine here. So what I'm looking at here, for instance, is the shadows created in this black and white. I can see that this can be dark. This area in here can be very dark. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that dark, but I want to use this. I want to use this cutout here, and maybe accentuate a little bit here. So here's a pastel, and I'll put this pastel right on the paper. See, like this here. I'll hold this up here. Now I'll drag this up. Okay, I'll drag this pastel up with my fingers. And so I'm trying to just sort of create a very soft look, if you will, because I don't necessarily want to go in there and create everything right now. And so you begin to see how that pops out. Okay. So I use the same thing. I can do the same process over here with the same stencil. I haven't changed anything, but what it does is it begins to pop out. You begin to layer. Okay, you can layer a lot of different ways, and this layering is just another way. And let's say I want to do, like I see up here, it's very, very bright. This black and white just doesn't quite show that. So maybe I want to introduce, just come down here a little bit and just introduce a little bit brighter green, just a touch. So bring that up.
Mark, what kind of pastels are you using? Are they hard?
Yes, they're hard. Yep.
Yeah.
They're Richson. I have some Terry Ludwig's. These are the Rocher. Here I've got, oh gosh, all kinds of them.
Yeah.
But you can, and I'll use these too. These the hard pastels, the Prismacolor, the new pastel.
Yeah.
I'll use these too. They're really good and they're inexpensive. And you know, and so I might go in there and just say, oh, I just need a little dot, just a little tiny dot to indicate the middle of the flower or something, like, because I see little tiny yellows in here. Maybe I'll put a little yellow right here. And that's what these are great for. They're little tiny sticks. So and then I'll look over here and say, okay, there's another, this is real dark here. And I want to maybe just create that same look. And I just try and build this up a little bit. I don't really care if it goes off because you're going to blend it in anyways. So just begin to work with it there. And so I know that there's sky. I do want to indicate some hint of sky. Yeah, I think that it may be a lot of just dark. I want people to explore this with me. I want them to look. I want them to see beyond just the red flower right now. And so I'll put, it's kind of hard to see there, but with the shadow. But I will put maybe just a couple of light blue, you know, just a couple of hints of blue. Maybe there's a little dark, you know. Maybe that's a little too dark. Maybe, yeah, you go through it, you go, yeah, maybe that's a little too bright. I better tone it down a little bit. So you go back over it and you blend them. Yeah, so you get in there and you create your own color when you start blending your pigments. So I might go in there and do that. As I stand back, I want to stand back from time to time, that's for sure. I say, okay, whereas maybe this needs a little more dark. And so I will go in and begin filling in just the cell. Like there's some really dark in here. I will go in, and this is where I begin the tedious task of filling in each one of these. Okay, so I do want to increase the value, the dark value in these areas. So this is a dark value up here. So you begin to work in it, and you say, okay, this is dark. Where am I looking at here? Ultimately, there is more dark. There's some very dark reds in here. It's very pretty purple, pinks in there too. So I'll go back and start to pull these out. Like I want to highlight some of these areas in here. And so that's what we begin to do. I really want to just get this area. I really want to get this, the dark. And it goes over. And I don't know if you can see, but there is a little indication of those drops that I made with the spray bottle. You can barely see them here. They're coming through. If I got to cover them, I got to cover them. I will. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But again, they look kind of neat to me because I don't know, it just adds another layer. And so whenever I can, I do like to go in and put my lightest light against the darkest darks also. Especially when it comes like this, I really want this to be the focal point. So I know that there's some more flowers over here. I see little flowers here. I'm going to indicate some of these here. And this is where it begins to, you get to a point and you say, okay, how realistic am I going to try and make this? Is it going to be more abstract? I can make these just squares if I wanted to. And really begin to make this more boxy. So this becomes more of a rectangle, if you will. But again, if I want to blend this in, now it becomes more of a solid color. So once you have that, if you want to make it round again, you just come over, you don't have to fill the whole square. begin to round it up a little bit. And come down and do something like that. So I also know that up in here, I just want to color these in here. Then I'm not sure, but there's a tiny little, for the sake of time, I'm just going to put this in. I want there to be something to look at in this corner, in this part of the whole painting. So I want there to be attention drawn here. I might come down and mute this area a little bit with a little different color. I know that there's some flowers here. There's flowers all through this field, but I don't necessarily want to bring a lot of attention to these here. They're part of the picture for sure, but I just want to be able to say, okay, this is what it is. And I also, when I look at the picture and the painting here, the picture, I see tiny little dots of red up there. So there's little dots of red. They're coming up. I forget the name of this flower anyways. I'm sure there are flower people that can tell me. I'll be embarrassed.
That's not a gladioli?
Gladiola, that's it, gladiola.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Gladiola, that's right. And so I also know that it's not, I need to put more definition sort of, because it's not a cylinder. It looks kind of like a cylinder now. But I know that I can bring this out a little more, and I can bring this out a little more, and just create a better definition, if you will, of this. Little things popping out over here, you know, little flowers or flowers that grow how they grow. You know, so I just want to maybe not make it quite so, you know, just like I said, just a cylinder. And so then, you know, eventually, you know, I put little indication of the bud, because there are little buds there, and there's a couple of them coming out, and so they just come up like that. And also, there's all kinds of fun down here, there's just all kinds of fun, because this, you know, these all have stalks. They're not growing in air, so yeah, you can put indications of this, you know, and then you can use the same. I can put together the same process as I did with the flower. Put a little stencil if I wanted to. I don't want to do that. I want this to come down, you know, and just maybe you just make hints. It's just a hint of wildlife, of flowers, you know. But as soon as you start carrying this down here, you know, it's really what you're doing. It's just having fun with this stuff. And this is just, you know, but at the end of the day, I think, you know, we have a few more minutes left, 10 more minutes, but I'm hoping that at the end of the day, you can see sort of where you go with this and what you want to get out of your painting. For me personally, I want to have fun, and I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to just enjoy the process as much as anything, because I know that if I've done everything I could to use my imagination to explore what I do, I'm gonna have a very good night's sleep. I'm gonna enjoy myself. And so what I'm doing is I'm just trying to build up the white, the color field across, because again, I'm looking at this, there's an awful lot of white, of color in here. And so I will try and include a little color somewhere down here too, because there will be reflections down here through the plant life. There are reflections for sure. I can see them, and so maybe just indicate them. You know, indicate that. Throw, yeah, here's a pink. I don't see any pink in there except a little bit here. It's maybe hard to see in the picture there. I see a little pink. So what the heck? And what it is, it's a little brick, like a little pink brick that's shining through there. I'll put it in there with that. And so maybe put a little different color in there. There's a little different value, but yeah. So that's sort of how I build it, how I start the process. Now we put a little yellow here, a little yellow dot here. Yeah, that's all. However gladiolas grow, that's how they're made in my world. So, and then again, if you want to you can fill these in because they look a little, maybe they're a little too jagged, you know, maybe they're not quite arbitrary enough. Maybe you want more definition here. There you go. So you kind of start popping those out, you know, so it's not quite so rigid. And also the soft edges kind of create some depth to it a little bit. So from here, I've definitely darkened this area up some more.
Mark, what were you using to a stump to blend in?
Yep. Yeah, it's just the
Regular stump?
yeah, believe me, initially I clean this all the time. Like I'd clean it. It doesn't matter. It's gonna get filled with dirt and pastel, and yeah, I like, oh, I gotta use just blue on blue and red on red, but that's all full of red. It's like, well, big deal. You got a little red in there. It actually adds it's a neat kind of a way to blend, because now it introduces some of your color of the main subject into other parts of your painting also. Big deal. You know, you just put, you know, because there is red. I mean, there's all kinds of red. So what?
Do you blend to mute it, or will you leave, you know, like those dark spots? Are they just going to stay
A lot. Nope. More, I do both. To answer your question, it really,
Okay.
the painting dictates what I'm going to do to it.
I guess because of the, you know, the weave in the paper, what I'm curious about is how much pastel stays around that, you know, the threads.
Well, I've shipped these.
So-
I've shipped these cross country, and I only had one really. The pastel dropped onto the mat, and it's like, well, that's pretty good odds, you know. And so I figure, if that's all that happens, they stay on pretty firm, really.
Okay.
And I just want to show you a little piece of the paper. This is actually the parts that I cut off of this piece here. So this piece is again that wide. So it's very flimsy. It's very, you know, it's a neat kind of fabric. I really.
Is it cotton?
No, it's made out of Thai. It's a mulberry paper, actually. It's from Thailand. And so I can show you, this is one I did. And you can use any panel. Like this is on cardboard. I just put it on cardboard. I don't know why, but I just put it on cardboard. And so it bowed some. It's not framed or anything, obviously, but this is one I did that I just wanted to see what I could do. You know, I wanted to see what blues would look like in reflection. And this is actually on a piece of Revis paper that I just wanted to see what would happen if I put this on Revis paper as cardboard. And, you know, I'm happy. And then to take it to a next sort of level, I got a fishing net, and so I got a fishing net, and I did the same thing. I used the gesso. It took a while longer to put it on there for sure, but I did, and it was interesting. Yeah, it's a work in progress, I think, at this point. So it's a landscape. You know, it has a horizon, and I don't know. I thought it would be interesting to see how big I could blow this up. You know, how big can I get with these little cells?
Do you worry about archival or other?
It's all archival. But, well, the pastels are archival, and
Yeah.
in the gesso, I just have to assume that it's going to be archival, you know, and once I'm gone, I guess the archivalness goes away with me, you know. I mean, the concern, you know, I hope it stays for a long time, but that's sort of how it goes in the daily painting pastel life of me. That's how I create this. This is my thought process. I hope you've enjoyed it, and
This was great. We do have a few minutes for questions.
Open it.
Tatiana, do you want to unmute everybody?
I'm trying to, yes, let me just get to that. I have to open up.
Mark, do you do everything in this one room, or do you have?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
can everybody, I'm gonna ask people to unmute, okay. Some people need to be asked to unmute. Okay, let's see.
Sure.
I don't know, some people,
So I could.
okay, is everybody,
Oh, people seem to be unmuting themselves. Okay.
well,
Good.
yeah. I asked everybody, so, hi.
So I have a air cleaner, circulates the air, it pulls the dust out. I don't have it running right now because of the noise. And it's pretty silent actually, but I didn't want to run it right now. But it does create dust. Does it create more? Yeah, I don't know. It does, and you see on the little ridges here, the pastel falls down and it gets caught on these little ridges, but it doesn't bother me. And you can either blow it off or tap it off, one or the other. So
Tap it, please.
yeah, yeah, I do, but
How do you frame it?
not always. I frame it very typical. Use a spacer, and I haven't had any problem with it. I got a good framer in Racine, Wisconsin, and he is dialed in. He'll put a spacer. Like I said, it holds together very well. I do tap it before I frame it, and I do get some glycine paper. Is that glycine?
Yeah.
And I'll press down, and I'll press down really hard. And I don't use any fixatives. I don't care for them myself. I don't need them. I thought that I would need them, and for me, what happens is sometimes it'll create that like a potato chip look, like sometimes it's too much for it. So I'd rather just press it down and tap it. And if anything comes off then, before I take it to the framer, then I can address it. But I just usually frame it just the way it is.
Now, if I can put in a pitch for Richardson, you mentioned Richardson earlier.
Right.
Richardson supplied our demo presenters with requested supplies, and Mark asked for panels. So can you talk about the panels you were asking for? Are they wood? Are they?
These are. Let me take this off. I'll show you oh wait, I got.
And thank you, Richardson.
Yes, thank you very much. So this is. So the back, it's a premium artist panel. You see that? The premium artist.
Very nice.
Yeah, 16 by 20. I've used these panels quite a bit. I've also used, and I've had a lot of good success with the Gator board. I think it's a thick 3/4 inch. It's lightweight. That they are archival, and they're very sturdy, and they don't warp. Like this one doesn't warp. Usually these panels don't warp. The thinner panels can warp sometimes, and even wood. I've primed wood panels, like just straight off the shelf from Home Depot, and prime those, and they'll bow a little bit. They'll get a little bow in it, and the framers don't like those bows. It's like so.
Are there questions? Yes, Judy, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself? Oh, she can't unmute herself.
Oh, I thought I had, okay, hold on. I thought, where is she? Okay. Who am I missing?
Judy G.
Okay, I thought I have the whole, I'm looking at my view and I have it in gallery and I'm.
Go to participants, Tatiana.
Okay, I'm going.
And in the meantime, other questions?
I do have an email address on my website. My webpage is, I'm not sure if you've been copied on that. It's markpriceart.com. There has access to my webpage and my email. If you'd like to email any questions afterwards, please feel free.
Okay, we've got Judy.
Yeah, my question is, and I'm sorry if I missed you saying this,
Yep.
what do you do to adhese it to the panel?
That's where I use the gesso.
Okay, so that's just part of the gessoing process.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's this. It comes in different colors. I've used black. I've used tan. But I like the clear because you can add your own colors to it.
This is the multimedia artboard.
This
Yeah.
is Color Fix Multimedia Primer.
Oh,
Fast-
color fix.
pastel and multimedia primer. Quick drying, light, fast, acrylic, can be used on paper, canvas, wood. But I've used it. I use it all the time. I don't think I bought actually sanded paper for a long time.
So that's the Art Spectrum product?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dick Blick has it.
Yeah, it comes in all sorts of colors and clear and white.
Yeah.
Can you hold it up one more time?
Yep.
Oh,
Art Spectrum.
The Australian company.
thanks. Thank you.
Yep. And this
Other questions?
That's a little tool I used in the movie. It's just a little, I think it's a tea strainer, but it's a handy little thing. It's just what I found that works perfect.
I like your imagination.
Well, I use it all the time.
We got a comment from Anu in the chat to thank you for your wonderful demo. And I think this is a good time for all of us to thank you very much, Mark. This was
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
you.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. You've given us a lot to think about and play with.
Well, like I said, if you can, maybe there's one thing in your toolbox that's new and you can use down the road, or for me, it's exciting when you see someone mind work is what excites me to hear how you put this together. What is it? Maybe you never use it, but at least you see, oh, if you see this in a gallery or in a show, you say, it's not like I know how that's done. That's a big deal. I can do that. So it's very exciting. I really am happy that I was able to do this for the Chicago Pastel Painters. And hopefully I can get down there to Chicago when this whole thing clears up and do a live demo.
And that would be great. And see your daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
that's great. Thank
our
you.
last event for the fall is Sunday at 4:00, November 22nd, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, with Bill Schneider doing a portrait tip,
Good.
painting the eye. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Tatiana, and thank you,
Okay,
Mark.
thank you.
guys.
Thank
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody wants to-
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Mark.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks. So, how did it go? Good?
That was
I
fantastic.
think it went fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm really happy that you guys invited me to do this. It really got me to think about the process as much as anything. That was something, like I said, when you're by yourself, you don't think out loud. You don't talk to yourself necessarily, not all the time, but it gave me a good.
Well,
Yep.
one of the people participating, Kathy Newman, do you know her? She teaches a pastel class, and she's always looking for ideas, and she's trying to get her students to experiment.
Sure.
So this will give her lots of things to think about for her students too.
Oh, good. Yeah, you pass stuff off. It's I think artists in general, right? They say they're great robbers, right? They
Yeah, I was just
learn
going to
more.
say we're all magpies.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, yeah, I took a class, and Eleanor Spies Ferris, who judged our last member show, and she says, steal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep on
That's
stealing.
what Picasso said.
Right.
Bad artists imitate, good artists
go.
steal, or something. Jack, your Zoom bomb.
There you go. There you go. Well, I tell you what, if there's any feedback, you have my email address.
My clothes up.
Yeah, believe me.
We're hoping-
Does he know we're recording it?
There you go.
You know that, Jack? They're recording.
I'm happy there weren't any long pauses or awkward, long.
Oh, I think it went fantastic.
I think the transition went as good as we could expect.
Yeah, the movie was a really good idea, because when you just hold up a work of art, if you're not controlling the light, sometimes you don't get it straight on. So having your images at the beginning and then your technique, everybody was enwrapped. I was sneaking back and looking at people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
close to them.
Yeah, because
No, I think this was very good. I think it opens up people's minds, and this is, with COVID and everything, I think people need to think, if not copy or try yours, then try something else.
And people who couldn't make it today, of course, we'll have it on our website for our members. So thank you for that.
Would it be possible to let me see that in some way? Like,
yes, you know what? We're going to need to splice it, because you were filming the film or when you were talking.
Yeah.
So
I-
you
I-
recorded one thing, so we started the recording, I think, and then we
So what happened,
transferred to you.
what I noticed, Tatiana, when you transferred it to me, or I should say, when you had it, it was recording, and then why I looked down after you sent me and it said it was recording.
Mhm.
So I hope it was recording. You know,
No, I think it was, so you didn't try to record it yourself?
I looked down at the start and it said it was recording. It just had pause and stop the video, stop the recording. And
Well, that
You
sounds
started the
promising.
record. Okay, well, we might not, I don't know if we'll have your explanation in there,
Oh, well.
so.
well, you know,
Well, you know what, I don't know how to download it. They say, I'll look into it, how to download it, and we'll find out whether you were in there or not.
well,
And if not, then we have your,
it's for prosperity then for the people that join us, you know.
well, no, well, you know what, we can still have the movie without all the details,
Sure.
Without the voiceover.
without the voiceover.
But it sounds like you might have been recording it, so let's just
Sounds
see.
like that. When I look
You know
down,
what, we might have been, but when I transferred to the host, I didn't see it recording on my screen. So,
All right, well, we'll
and then
see.
so we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see. It was
You know
it was
what,
great.
though, Mark, I'm not sure who has, you may actually have the whole recording. It's still recording too, by the way, because you'll have to take a look since you started the meeting.
Yep.
So we'll have to figure it out. See if you have the recording and I'll check to see if mine is.
okay. Because when I click on record now, it says, please ask the host to give you permission.
Well, yeah, okay, so let me stop the recording.